to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Oh, welcome in.
Huh? Huh? What?
You didn't like the start of
No,
it?
what's going on? You got?
I think I had some candy.
You got candy in your mouth?
I had some candy in my mouth. Oh, you know what?
Just click those Mike and Ikes around real quick.
It's taken me 42 years, but I'm ready to admit the truth. Candy is delicious.
Is there sugar in there?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah, they haven't really nailed the taking sugar out of candy and making it still taste good thing. They've got some like versions of candy out there.
I think they're
they
okay.
give you some pretty hardcore farts.
Oh, you're talking about the maltol farts.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Jason
Sugar-
Maltol
Jason
cocktail.
knew, right? What?
Sugar-free chocolate is a problem and should not be consumed. Sugar-free chocolate is the only way they can do it is maltol, and you're gonna ruin everybody else's.
You're gonna leak.
It's just
It
it's
does
not meant
give
for
you-
human consumption.
Gives you leaky butt.
I found that the sours. There's a company that does them, and they're okay. The texture is different.
Like you kind of know.
Yes.
You know they're trying to pull one
yeah.
over on
Yeah,
you.
but sometimes it works.
It's necessary.
Yeah.
Welcome into the Fantasy Footballers. Mike Wright, Jason Moore, Andy Holloway back with you. We've got a full production crew today. Inducer Zally, Al Borland, Papa Josh, and the Falcon in the building.
For now, we'll keep an eye on them.
You say he may.
You
Fly
never
the
know.
roost.
You never know.
We have an NFC East breakdown episode. Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, Giants on today's episode. And I believe one more divisional breakdown show after this one.
Correct.
Should be.
Going over
So,
to the West.
Yeah.
For
the West
Saturday.
only has 3 teams this year. Did you know that?
I did know that, yeah. As a
So-
Cardinals fan, I am well aware.
So that'll be the Saturday episode, and then we'll be through all the divisions. If you missed any of them, we're kind of breaking down the changes for the teams, additions, subtractions, head coaching, offenses, expectations, players that are kind of, not the obvious draft picks, but the more debatable upside, downside situations. So we'll get into the NFC East today. You can pick up the Ultimate Draft Kit at ultimatedraftkit.com, or better yet,
You can and you should.
go to jointhefoot.com. Become an Ultimate Foot Clan supporter of the podcast, and you will get everything, the UDK, the in-season tools, the lineup optimizer in the season, everything we have to offer.
But what if we make new stuff?
You'll get that too.
Okay.
Yeah, we're upgrading a lot of stuff with the mock draft tool. We know it's still beta, but we're working on Dynasty, getting that added in, and some other cool stuff. We've gotten all your suggestions, and we appreciate them, and we're going to keep working on it. Quick question of the day. I don't think we're going to do one today. Oh, no, we do have one. Hey, ballers, how much do you guys focus on strength of schedule when drafting? Tom in Ohio wants to know.
So, I mean, in these divisional breakdowns, if you're paying attention, we always talk about the opening schedule for that team because that can matter. There's players that you don't. I don't give a crap what the schedule is. I don't care how hard you say it is. Every format can say this is the worst schedule imaginable, and there's still fantasy players that you will draft regardless. But there's some where
Yeah, you're not moving off of Josh Allen because,
Right.
no, it's a tough defense. It's Josh Allen.
but it's there's guys where it can be a tiebreaker. Sometimes you need you have a roster construction where in this round, like, I got to get a player that I know I'd be able to play for a month. Maybe this isn't a season-long player, but throughout time, through like the waivers, I'll be able to do it. It's fun to look at the playoff schedule and dream and hope at this time of year, but it's still too early to be doing that.
Yeah, there's so much turnover on the defensive side. And what I was going to say is I really pay attention to extreme matchups to start the year. Because I know Houston's defense is going to be really good.
Sure.
But something middle of the pack or something that gets rated as a kind of a bad matchup based off of last year's numbers and stats and players, I'm not overemphasizing that. Like, I'm looking for extremely easy matchups. Like, I still know that Cincinnati and Dallas they're not going to be top 10 defenses. So those are going to be juicy to start the year. But I'm not overemphasizing it myself.
Yeah, and then the only thing I would say that I specifically look at, I mean, if I'm in my draft and I figure I'm going to end up streaming my quarterback. So I
Yep.
I missed out on, the top studs, and now I'm getting towards the double-digit rounds.
You're not missing out on Josh Allen the last few mocks, I'll tell you that.
No, I'm not. But should that happen, then I look at the schedule for those later round quarterbacks that I don't think I'm necessarily just playing for 17
Right.
games. I'm going to say, well, who's he playing week 1, week 2? And then certainly every single draft, the thing I probably care about the most when it comes to the defenses that I'm picking is what are they getting off to? If it's like, oh, do you want to play against the Lions in week 1?
Right.
No.
Mm-hmm.
But like the Packers start Minnesota, the Jets, the Falcons. They're a good defense. Like I'm fine with
Packers
that.
is tough because I need Micah
Sure.
to be back, and I don't think he'll be there to open the season.
All right, let's talk news.
News and notes from around the league.
ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reports Lions tight end Sam Laporta with the herniated disc fully cleared for training camp. So the Laporta train keeps going.
Keeps going. Hey, incredible citing your source work over there, Andy.
Oh, yeah. It was ESPN's Jeremy Fowler that did that.
Yeah.
The Seahawks officially placed running back Zach Charbonnet on the PUP.
To be expected, he should start the season on the PUP as well.
The Dolphins placed Chris Bell, their rookie wide receiver, on the active NFI list, recovering from an ACL.
Not completely unexpected at this point. Slightly disappointing. You hope with the whole
We don't have any wideout situation they have?
that, as well as just the year of the peptide advanced healing ahead of schedule. You want him out there, but he tore his ACL pretty late. So, whether he's there week 1 is TBD.
Albert Breer reporting the Buccaneers are prepared to dive in on negotiations with Baker Mayfield this week.
That's good. Is there a team
now
unprepared to have negotiations with their quarterback?
Well, I just want to know the difference between current status and diving in. Like, is this we've been in a big room, we're getting into a smaller room?
Yeah, wait.
Is it a pool legitimately?
Yeah, I mean, are we feet in? Are we waist in?
Well,
And then
no,
we're gonna
if you're
dive?
diving in, you can't.
You have nothing in?
No, not yet. You're about to dive in.
Maybe you can help me with this. The NFL Network's Ian Rappaport says the Cardinals are in agreement that Jacoby Brissett, quote, deserves more money.
This is a great news section today.
I love this report.
This is
We all agree he deserves more money.
Yeah, no, we're not going to pay him more.
Yeah.
But like,
You
dude
deserve
deserves it.
The
He
funny thing
deserves
is
the world.
Jacoby Brissett is his own agent, which I find to be all the more humorous in my cartoonish mind.
Jacoby's agent also agrees.
Yes.
He deserves more money.
Yeah, all of them agree. Jacoby, his agent, the Cardinals. We just can't quite get there on what that represents.
I've never seen the self-agent thing work for the benefit of the player.
I feel like
I mean,
we've heard about it working.
if you're LeBron or
Lamar,
like
Lamar has been negotiating.
okay, that's like if you are the most elite, where you're basically going to get everything you ask for. Okay, but if you're not, you need an agent. I feel like it's.
But the counterpoint would be, if you're not, I don't need an agent coming in, putting hands in the pockets and taking
you
my
want the
cash.
hand-
4%.
You want to give the 10% away
Jacoby
because that
doesn't.
agent is going to get you more.
Well, both those teams ready to dive in, just really haven't dove in yet, but they're getting there. There's a chance.
Any day now.
Let's get it going.
Let's get divisional.
The NFC East last year, Philadelphia won the division at 11-6. It was the first time we've had back-to-back division champs in the NFC East since 03-04.
That is wild.
The other thing I've noticed when I look at all the recent winners, if I count it back from this past year, Eagles, Cowboys, Commanders, Eagles, and so on, is that the Giants haven't appeared in that list since 2011. Every other team has won the division at least 3 times since the last time the Giants won it.
15 years ago.
Which is wild because,
They're not winning it this year.
yeah, well, not with that speech.
Dude,
Harbaugh.
it's the New York.
was-
I see the New York Giants.
It's the New York Giants.
No, hold on. It's the New York Giants.
If you haven't seen Harbaugh's
You got
incredible
fire in your belly.
motivational speech, it
It was
wasn't.
on John Gannon levels. He did not have a script. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it all the way to Gannon, but it was
No,
it was
not-
disappointing.
His Yeah,
It
didn't
lame.
work for me.
It was lame.
It didn't do much. Yeah. Hopefully there's been some better conversations.
And
But
I don't know Harbaugh. I don't know his tendencies. At that point, you just got to start cursing. You have no material, man.
That's where you got to go?
Just unleash it.
What about pew, 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 pew? Got a fire in your belly? I like what the Falcons saying. Liam Cohen was cringe till the winds started flowing.
Yeah.
Well, but we know who Harbaugh is.
Yeah. Yeah, he's kind of cringe. Let's start with Philly. Last year, projected win total 11.5, 8-4 in one-score games. They have whatever
just short.
What do you mean?
Well, the projection
of 11? Yeah.
Yeah.
They have the opposite of the 49ers situation going on. The last 2 years, they have been one of the healthiest teams in all of football. We'll see if that continues. San Francisco should hire away some of those guys.
Yeah, there is certainly a huge amount of luck built into health, but there has to be better staffs. And like when you have a crap medical staff, or as in you look and your team is always getting wrecked by injuries, you got to start looking around what other people are doing.
Yeah, the training, I don't even know if it's the medical staff versus the training staff and whatever you're doing. I mean, they're doing something wrong in San Francisco. There's just no way that you are always that injured. But yeah, it's nice that the Eagles were healthy. Obviously, that helps them get to the Super Bowl. And honestly, last year, despite their health, one of their big problems, and we saw it, was whenever they were missing Lane Johnson, they looked like a different offense.
Well, this year they are projected for 10.5 wins. They have a new offensive coordinator, Sean Mannion. Again, another new one. One of the interesting things about their offense, since it's always a part of the debate, back in 2024, they had 48 tush pushes. They converted 81% of those. Last year, 33 tush pushes.
Yeah, whoa.
They converted 64% of them.
I almost made the joke, and
just don't say it three times fast.
Don't do it.
Sixth in points per game in terms of their defense, giving up. They were an elite defense. We know that about them. But on the offensive side, it wasn't great. 24th in yards per game, 19th in points per game. That's how you end up with a new offensive coordinator. The problem that I have is that, generally speaking, your offense doesn't take a step forward when your already older running back gets older and your best wide receiver leaves and you replace him with Hollywood Brown and Dontavian Wicks and
Mekhi Lemon.
Mekhi Lemon is certainly not A.J. Brown today. Maybe he can get there tomorrow. But I do have my concerns about the trajectory of the offense and whether we're going to see – like we've gotten the whole experience with Philadelphia. We've gotten offensive coordinator comes in, they stink. We have offensive coordinator comes in, Kellen Moore, they're awesome. We now have another one coming in. It's just a team that's quick to turn on somebody.
It's really it's not always turning on somebody. Sometimes it's success and sometimes it's failure. It's been pretty much every other year. They went to the Super Bowl. Shane Steichen was great. Ended up going to Brian Johnson. He sucked. They were like, that didn't work. So then they've got to replace him. They bring in Kellen Moore. That was great. He did so well that he gets a head coaching job. Then Kevin Patullo comes in. He sucked, and he was terrible. One of the worst offenses imaginable to watch. And you can blame Jalen Hurts and say, some people did. Some people said, well, Patullo's got to dumb down the offense because Jalen Hurts can't read defenses, blah, blah, blah. We're not inside the building. I have no idea if that's true or not. But I know that we've seen Jalen Hurts run a good offense. We've seen him, go out there and rush for 600 and throw for 3,800. So he can do it. Now you're making another change. You're going to Sean Mannion. And so, running back older.
No A.J. Brown.
No A.J. Brown. Those are negatives. But I do think that the shift of the offense is massively important, is a huge upgrade, because what we saw from the system last year was so bland, vanilla, boring.
Well, let me say a couple things. One thing we did learn was that they couldn't fix it even when they tried last year. It wasn't like they didn't know something was wrong in week 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. They couldn't get it right. The other thing I want to bring up, and this is a fair question, we've seen this many, many times. Some players have very special seasons. You go back to 2022, Jalen Hurts in our consistency metrics. 53% great games. 80% good, 7% bust. Last year, the worst in all three metrics for him, 13% great games. That's a humongous difference on what you're getting week to week. And just 44% good games. He busted 31% of the time. I know we can point to lots of different things, but at least like the range of outcomes is there for Jalen Hurts. You could have a resurgent year. Devontae Smith, Mekhi Lemon, Dallas Goedert, Saquon can run the ball. The offensive line stays healthy. But you can also get this. And so I think it is one of those things where fantasy managers are having a hard time knowing whether they should reward the past in their draft spot for Jalen Hurts now.
I think they should. Obviously, I've been a Jalen Hurts apologist for many years. Sometimes it's been great. It's never really been bad. It's not like he crushed you last year, but it was very disappointing. And the change, though, to me, obviously you lose A.J. Brown. That's not helpful to the offense. However, I think when they spread the ball around and not having to force it one direction is good, but also on the goal line, I mean, the tush push has been magical for them over the last several years. It's not in the news anymore, meaning it's not coming up. It's not being voted on this year. It will be back. If you look at just tush pushes over the last couple of years, there were opportunities that just didn't come this last year, and that's, you had 13 attempts 2 years ago, 15 attempts the season prior, and then this last year only 8 attempts at the goal that they just found themselves on the goal line, and that's been his secret sauce for fantasy. He hasn't, since his sophomore year, has been double-digit touchdowns every year, 15 touchdowns, 14 rushing touchdowns. Last year it was 8. It's just many fewer attempts at the tush push on the goal line. Those are things that I don't think are.
I mean, he only had 421 rushing yards.
Yeah,
which is outside of the touchdown argument. You're talking about a pretty big downgrade for him. He's gone from 784, 760, 605, 630, 421.
You're going to have the rushing touchdowns go up. He is not. He's going to be 28. I think that the years of having 700 plus rushing yards, those are gone.
Did you mean passing touchdowns going up, or were you saying rushing touchdowns?
Rushing touchdowns.
Oh, okay.
Because rushing touchdowns the last couple of years, he's been at 14, 15, and then this last year drops to 8. That's a massive amount of fantasy points when you're talking about losing 7 rushing touchdowns.
I wasn't sure if you were saying he needs to become more prolific as a touchdown thrower because his rushing yardage is diminishing.
No, I mean, I think those are different things. The rushing yardage will be going down, but I don't think the rushing touchdown totals will necessarily be going down because of the tush push. When they get to the 1 yard line, that's not like upping his rushing yardage.
But they're less successful at it now.
They're slightly, but
they're
it's still
going to do it.
It's still the most successful play in football. So it's like, did they fail like once or twice more percentage-wise than they had the year prior? Yeah, but they're absolutely still going to call that play.
Points per game, Hurts was still the QB7. So I mean, like, he finishes at 10, but he didn't play.
I think there's a lot more risk to Jalen Hurts now than there ever has been before.
Oh, see, I feel like
because
the risk
A.J.
earlier.
Brown gave him a guaranteed passing game ceiling that I don't think he can necessarily meet. I mean, last year, those numbers you talked about, Mike, that was his career high in passing touchdowns. If that hadn't been there, you're talking about an even more disappointing year consistency-wise.
ADP-wise, he's the last of the, like, you feel cozy, like they feel like a warm blanket of
so you both feel that way.
Well, I'm just saying what the price is a point where right now it's Josh Allen, Lamar, Drake, Joe Burrow, Jayden, and then Hurts is what I'm seeing for current redraft ADP. So at that point, it's like, what's the in your head, Andy? How large is the gap between Hurts and Jayden or Hurts and Burrow? Like, do you, as a fantasy football player, you feel like, I'm so confident? Yeah, so then why just wait for Hurts?
Yeah,
it would be the thesis. So I think he's a fine pick. I think it's fair to put him at the end of the list of the known commodities for fantasy quarterbacks.
I think you can say both things, and both things can be true, where he's probably not going to be a top 3 quarterback anymore because the rushing yardage isn't going to be up at 750 plus. He's not going to be a bad quarterback for fantasy because of the rushing touchdowns. And so this year the risk is it's the lowest ADP we've seen from him in several years. You're getting him in the 6th round.
Yeah, I think people have doubts about the offense without A.J.
Sure.
Brown and doubts about, the next player we're going to talk about, which is Saquon Barkley, who had the prolific Super Bowl winning, incredible 2024 season, 17 20-plus yard runs, 7 40-plus yard runs, was just truly unbelievable. Last year, we did not see the explosiveness from him. And so people want to know for fantasy, where does he slot in among the big names? Is a resurgent year in the cards? Or, I've seen some people talk about Saquon in the context of he's never been great at, getting what wasn't, not having that offensive line that's setting things up for him.
He always wants a home run. Going back to the time as a Giant, there's plays where you're like, hey, come on, Saquon, just take the 4. Take the 4, take the 5 here. So that's part of the Saquon Barkley experience.
There were 55 qualified running backs that had 80 or more attempts last year. He was ranked 48 in stuffed at the line of scrimmage.
And honestly,
so that tells me he wants to hit the home run, and it worked really well when all the lanes were wide open. But 48th in rush success rate as well, 42nd in yards after contact per attempt. People were getting bodies on him, and the team could not pass the ball well to start the year. So I think more teams were stacking the box against him, and it was working.
Yeah, could Saquon have a resurgent year? Yes, Lane Johnson being healthy, opening the lanes up, that could happen. I am more skeptical. When I watched Tank Bigsby behind the same offensive line last year, he looked great.
Yeah.
And obviously Saquon is a very, very, very good, an all-time back, but he's 29 years old.
Did Lane? How many games did Lane even miss? I feel like he missed almost nothing. We do talk. He was banged up, but I feel like he barely missed.
I think he missed. I think he missed within a game where he technically started. I'll look that up, but I remember it being a big
10 games for Lane.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
so he missed a good amount.
Big storyline often of how much that hurt their offense.
13 carries inside the 5 for Saquon, 1 rushing touchdown.
Yikes!
So to see the push.
There you go.
I'm really weary around that phrase now. To see those numbers go down and the Saquon rushing touchdowns go down is interesting. Devontae Smith, I think that his ADP, he's a player that his ADP is going to continue to rise
he is,
into August. That's my only concern about him.
It's
I felt
going
like he
way up. So redraft right now, he's kind of been in your mocks and things of like this. Oh, yeah. I got Devontae Smith in the wide receiver 20s. He's
for
not.
A while.
In best ball, he's a top 12 guy.
Yeah, I was going to say he's being drafted. I think that Devontae Smith without A.J. Brown is essentially a wide receiver 1 for fantasy. He's already finished there before. We've seen it whenever A.J. Brown has missed time that Devontae Smith steps up. But you're not getting a discount on him. It's not surprising people. He's being drafted right now in best ball drafts like a wide receiver 1, and when push comes to shove later, I think he's a fine pick, but the upside is kind of built in. I think that the guy on this offense whose upside is not baked into ADP, I don't know why it just doesn't feel exciting at all, but Mekhi Lemon is great. I think he is a fantastic
he's a very, very good player.
wide receiver. He was a first-round pick at wide receiver. There was a big 3 this year. He was one of those big 3 great wide receivers coming in, and he's coming in to a team that lost A.J. Brown. So it's like, oh, okay, there's ways and avenues. You go like, this is a good offense. There's an opportunity, and the talent is there. Should he be like a breakout, surprising year 1 player, you're drafting him at a place where that's going to be very impactful and helpful for fantasy football.
Yeah, with training camp on the way, it will be interesting to hear what the utilization of Lemon and Wicks, what they're doing, because Mekhi Lemon could really start moving up in ADP. Cause right now where he is, that's mid 7th, late 7th round for a first round wide receiver in a team that has a bunch of opportunity. Those are players you should draft.
Yeah, the wide receiver room is going to be an interesting one to watch in Philly. Devontae Smith, the cost is still high, but he's not I think most people are putting George Pickens up ahead of him right now in rankings, and that's a player where you're like, okay, Devontae Smith should be their bona fide number one, but the volume differential. Mekhi Lemon is a discussion. Wicks, we'll watch training camp. But Dallas Goedert is the most sneaky, hidden, possible tight end gem that exists, in my opinion. It is like we're sitting here discussing the gargantuan absence of A.J. Brown. Mekhi Lemon, Eli Stowers is making no headlines. Mekhi Lemon has made few. He's been hurt. He's been banged up the hamstring. But a rookie to come in and become a superstar for fantasy versus a tight end being able to be a number 2 target. If he's the number 2 target for the Eagles, there were lots of games last year he was super viable due to other players missing games.
Due to touchdowns. He
had 11 touchdowns, but I'm just saying, like, this seems like the Dallas Goedert solo project year where you could have a bridge here between Lemon growing into the role and Stowers growing into the role. And here's Goedert getting 90+% of snaps in an offense all year long.
I don't mind taking a shot. He's one of the names we've brought up many times.
Yeah.
When you're in the last round of your draft and you've done the thing where, hey, you didn't get one of the stud tight ends, so you're just punting the position to the end. He's in that list of absolutely take a shot at him. 11 touchdowns last year. Now, that was an outlier for him. He's a guy who's usually been like 4 touchdowns a year. But with A.J. Brown gone and the proof that he can be utilized around the end zone, that's why not? Why not take a shot at him?
He's always been ridiculously hurt, which has jacked up his fantasy finishes as well. If you look at points per game, last year it was his best because of the touchdowns, 10.3. But he's had years of 9.5 before, 9.1. So, but he always misses time. I mean, he played 10 games the year before, 14, 12, 15, 11. That's been his kind of problem. But I just think that if you're getting really, really late and you want to take somebody that you might just be able to leave in that spot, you're taking them as a streamer, but you might be able to leave them there all year long. I think Goedert is in that category.
Yeah. So they open with Washington, on the road against Tennessee, on the road against Chicago, then Rams and Jacksonville after that. But so those first 3 weeks, I mean, it's interesting.
I'm curious, Andy. So there's 3 old tight ends. They are going back to back to back. And they're tight end 13, 14, 15. So they're basically the first undrafted tight ends, or, near the end of your draft.
Kelsey's one of them.
Andrews and Goedert.
Yeah, I mean, I have Goedert leaps and bounds ahead of those guys. I mean, Goedert is my number 10.
Oh, really?
My number 10 overall tight end. I've got Kelsey at 17. I got Andrews at 21.
I'll just take Kelsey of that group.
Yeah, you seem to be pretty Kelsey.
I'm just okay with the
I think Goddard's going to get. I mean, he still had 60 catches.
Sure. Travis Kelce still had 76 and 850 yards.
Yeah, I understand. But he is clearly on his last legs.
This is the end for Travis, but as of right now,
you're taking the PPR.
It's like, Kelce's probably still the number 2 target.
Yeah,
we may have to bet that later on.
Kelce will probably have more work. And then if you talk touchdowns, obviously you can have 11 from Goedert last year. But around the goal line, they'll still look for Kelce.
Yeah, I mean, that's the one thing. Mekhi Lemon is not a big dude.
No.
So A.J. Brown has been that dude for a while, and I don't know. I just have a good feeling about Goedert. I don't like it. I don't want it. It's just there. It seems like the obvious pick on that roster where we want to find somebody else, to me. We'll take a break. We'll talk Cowboys. The Dallas Cowboys. I wonder if you could have remembered their record last year. Do you know it? Have you looked in the doc?
No, I didn't look at their record.
Okay. Yeah, try to remember, because they're just a weird team, man.
Yes.
Gosh.
Last year, because we are covered in the Pickens and Lamb and Dak
the offense.
And the offensive numbers. But what was their record, Jay?
Man, I feel like it was near 500. 7-9.
Yeah.
Was it
7-9?
But that's not even a complete record.
Oh yeah, because 8-8 is 16 now.
Yeah.
I was doing old school. No, I really didn't.
No, their projected win total last year was 7.5. It's 8.5 this year. Warren Sharp has them with the 4th toughest schedule for 2026.
Ooh, we don't like that.
They were number 2 in yards per game and 5 in points per game. They were a terrible defense. And here we go. Brian Schottenheimer, season number 2. Hot stat from Kyle. He coached all 17 games
Kyle's coaching now?
No, Brian Schottenheimer coached all 17 games with a visor on.
Well, Kyle's not here, so I wondered if he was coaching.
He has the visor stats for Brian Schottenheimer.
Oh,
Dude loves a visor. Clayton Adams, number
not just a visor, but you could see him frequently with a backwards
visor, which is not normal, but it is cool, man.
That was normal for me as a sophomore with my bleached hair.
Did you go backwards visor?
Bro,
yeah.
You weren't cool unless you were backwards
Sideways visor?
No, I wasn't that cool.
Okay.
You know, you talked about Mike Bood, the tough schedule coming up for the Cowboys, but that is a potentially good thing for them. They do have the Houston Texans in their fourth game, but this isn't necessarily the most difficult schedules for offenses to play against.
Sure.
This is good teams, and I'm looking at the totality, and they've got a lot of games that could be absolute shootouts and barn burners. You know, the 49ers are going to represent a very tough schedule, but against when you're like the Cowboys and you don't have a good defense and you've got a great offense, you're going to be able to score on almost all of these teams. And so I don't know, maybe a tough schedule from a wins and losses perspective is good for fantasy football.
So let's talk through the pieces here. Dak, we've heard you sing his praises throughout the offseason. CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, I think there's been the fun debate amongst, pundits about who's the better player as an actual wide receiver today. I still have CeeDee Lamb higher. I think he's going to get the first look on a lot of plays. But George Pickens had a special year, and we know how he was much better with Lamb off the field. Lamb struggled with the drops. Both of these guys are certifiably studs for this year.
Yes, they are both number ones. I think they are both worth the price of admission. With both of them staying healthy, and then you also have the nitro upside on if the Cowboy you don't have misses time, then yours is going to be even more valuable. So I'm just them with Dak and the two of them working together. It's an extremely exciting offense, and the fact that Javonte is not a nothing burger really, really helps as well. This is I'm very excited. I'm drafting. I'm fine with CeeDee Lamb at wide receiver 5, and I'm very okay with George at wide receiver 11.
CeeDee Lamb is fantastic. He's 27 years old. He is in his absolute peak prime. He was an A in consistency over his last 17 games. That includes a game where he played almost 0% of the snaps, and he wasn't scoring touchdowns last year. He was still great for fantasy. He's obviously got the upside of scoring the touchdowns. We saw 12 touchdowns a couple of years ago. CeeDee Lamb is their alpha, and I think he's got a lot to prove coming off of an injured year. So I still put CeeDee Lamb in, basically in a tier A, tier 1, JSN, CeeDee Lamb. To me, they're
you
near
cheering
each other.
him above George?
What's that?
So you have him?
Oh, he is definitely a tier above George to me, without a doubt.
Nah.
I mean,
I think he is for me too, Mike, and I like George.
Yeah, that's not an anti-George take. He was a my guy last year, but when they were both on the field, it really was, it was CeeDee Lamb getting it done. Just the comps with both of them on the field together.
That's just, the sample of them both on the field is very difficult because it was like the first 2 games. Okay, so that's what did George do in those first 2? Let me pull up those stats. So week 1 was not great. Week 2 was solid for George Pickens, but I'm saying that's his first 2 games as a Cowboy. So of course Dak is going to go to CeeDee Lamb to the tune of 13 and 11 targets. Then George goes absolute nuclear in the time that CeeDee Lamb is off the field. And then when they were both back on, it was really both of them just being very good until the end of the season. There was kind of a slump.
Let me bring up something that I don't think is very fun about the experience with Dallas that presented itself last year. Dak was the quarterback 5. We know the counting stats are going to be there. He passed for over 4,500 yards last year despite missing CD at 30 touchdowns. The weird thing about Dak last year was that, look, this team's projected, 7.5 wins? When they won the ball game last year, he averaged 24 fantasy points. When they lost, he averaged 12. So half the fantasy points in his losses. It's the largest gap between any of the top 15 quarterbacks. This was when it's good, it's great. And when they're losing, he was not a dependable enough fantasy quarterback. Does that trend concern you, or is it something that you see?
It doesn't it doesn't destroy me because, number one, you don't have to pay up for Dak. Dak remains one of the best values at the quarterback position. One of those games that is really dragging down the average. He played half of Week 18 against the Giants, where he scored 0.7 fantasy point. So that's involved another horrific game on the road against Denver. So it's like that stuff makes sense. And when you're playing a fantasy quarterback like Dak and it's Week 8 on the road against the Denver Broncos, you go,
maybe I don't start him.
I don't play Dak this week. Like that, and that's I think a benefit to him if you take him as a what quarterback is he going as right now? He is going
you guys have him ranked much higher than I do.
Yes. But he's going as like QB 11.
Ninth round.
As a quarterback not being drafted as a top 10, who will, if he plays 16 games, Dak Prescott will finish as a top 10 quarterback.
How many times has he done it in his career?
Almost basically every single time that he has played a full season. He's been the quarterback 6, 10, 2, 7, 3, and 5. So he's done it 6 times.
As long as he has played 13 or more games, he has been a quarterback one.
I want to play a game. It's a Javonte Williams-centered game.
Oh, man.
Do you want boring Javonte?
Okay.
This game's called boring or exciting.
Okay.
Do you want boring Javonte, or do you want exciting Cam Skattebo?
Jason, I'll let you go first.
I want Cam Skattebo.
I think I want boring Javonte.
Do you want boring Javonte or exciting Jeremiah Love?
Jeremiah Love.
Do you want boring Javonte Williams, or do you want exciting Travion Henderson?
Trevo.
I don't want to answer this.
Mike has to answer that one because I know he's going to be on the Javonte side.
It's Javonte.
Last question for you. Do you want boring Javonte Williams? Let me pick a good one here. Or exciting Quinshon Judkins?
Javonte.
I'll be on Javonte there.
Okay.
Give me the offense.
Really? We found I feel like you're always answering Judkins.
Yeah.
So Javonte, that's
I mean
where the line is?
You look at the difference in touchdown opportunities between the Cowboys and the Browns, and makes
the
it
most
pretty
exciting thing about Javonte is that there is no debate in this backfield of any kind. It is the most plain and simple. We paid him again, and he's our running back, and this is the running back for the Cowboys. Like that, I have zero fear of anybody else in that backfield.
Yeah.
You can say Jayden Blue or Phil Maffa or
Malik
Davis. You can say none of them matter. It's going to be Javonte. The team got a lot out of him last year. It's the same coaching staff with an former offensive line head coach, right? Wasn't that what Clayton Adams was a former
the Cardinals
line guy? And he's like, let's just bring him back. So, I mean, there is something to be said about being able to start that guy every week. You never think about it. Even in the Bashal Tootin, Chris Rodriguez stuff, we have to have in the back of our head, is he going to come off on a third down? Like,
sure.
Now, Javonte's not good on it. He can't catch the ball, but he's going to be their starter.
Yeah, I mean, you can't ask for much more than, is he the goal line back? Absolutely. 100% when they're on the goal line, he's going to get the touchdown opportunities in the rushing game. Is he passed to? Yeah, over 50 targets from Dak last year. He's had over 70, recently when he was in Denver.
Yeah, you won't do anything with him, but he's going to get the ball.
Is he on a good offense? Yeah. I mean, the real issue here is, do they win games? That's it's they might be a sub 500 team.
This will be a fun one to predict.
Yeah,
we have the Giants.
I was just real quick
in Washington starting their season.
Jake Ferguson this is fantasy football is wild. Jake Ferguson last year, 8 top 10 fantasy finishes, second only to Trey McBride on the season, and I won't draft him.
No, because
how many of those games were CeeDee Lamb out for?
That's the whole thing. I mean, it's nice.
Sign him immediately if one of those guys goes down.
Yes. He apparently, like, as much as Prescott loves throwing to the tight end position. I guess there's only enough to go around for two, and if one of those two is Jake Ferguson, he's going to be great. But otherwise, I would avoid him.
All right, the Washington Commanders. It was a lost season, 5-12 after having a great year with the Jayden Daniels rookie campaign. Their projected win total going into last year was 9.5.
Oh, just missed.
Yeah, yeah. They had
if they doubled, they would have covered.
The Eagles were the healthiest team, or one of the most healthy teams. This was one of the most injured teams. 9 starters missed at least 7 games. Third most adjusted games lost due to injury. It's exactly what it felt like. You never even got, like Jayden and McLaurin didn't even get to play together. I think they had 3 games out of 17 together. And so it was a disaster. I mean, this year the win total has been nerfed down a little from that 9.5. It's at 7.5. I'll be honest. I mean, there are some teams I have a really good vibe, feel, understanding of what it's going to look like. This team, with the departure of Cliff Kingsbury, with the Jayden Daniels trying to get back to health situation, with, question marks in the wide receiver room.
And a vampire calling the offense.
Blah,
David
blah, blah.
Blau. Yes. I don't think I know what they're going to be, is my point. I feel like we're so far removed from
Vegas
seeing the
doesn't
offense.
either. Vegas says,
We'll go 7.5. Yeah. I mean, most of these reviews were like looking at what they did last year. This one, I feel like it's kind of, not only is it unhelpful because you have a change in offensive coordinator, but it's unhelpful because you just didn't have players in place last year to do anything that are going to be in those spots to start this year. I mean, Jayden has got an offseason to get healthy. Terry McLaurin's going to be back out there. They have made some changes to the offensive side of the ball. They brought in Chigakonkwo. They brought in Rashad White. They drafted Antonio Williams in the 3rd round, a player I think we all we like the film.
mm-hmm.
We said goodbye to the old dudes, Debo, Ertz, Eckler. That was kind of like stopgap guys that, like, none of those, well, Ertz was, but the other 2 weren't a part of the previous season, right, where they had the success and went to the playoffs. So I don't even know if Ertz was, now that I'm thinking about it. But
he was there.
Yeah, Ertz was a part of that.
I couldn't remember when he left Arizona.
No, he's been in Washington for 2 years.
Okay.
He got, yeah.
But last offseason,
24, he played the full year.
Like, Eckler and Debo were parts of the conversation in the draft area of the year last year.
Yes.
They're gone. What are they going to be? What is this team going to be on offense? Because you got to tell me that there's some reliable pass catchers for me to believe in Jayden.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously there is a reliable pass catcher in Terry McLaurin, so you've got one. Antonio Williams, high draft capital wide receiver that I think fits the mold for a wide receiver too. Pretty good. He's a last-round dart throw in a lot of – I mean, we've been taking him in mock drafts as one of those later rookies who has opportunity and talent and a good quarterback here in Jayden.
For Antonio Williams, he did play 93% of his routes from the slot last year. And yes, I know that things can be overmade about that, where a college player plays in the slot and then they're like, no, I can do everything. But this isn't a 1st-round wide receiver. He's a 3rd-round guy. Does that give you any concern that should they follow the trends and only have 2 wide receivers out there, that he won't be the 2nd guy?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, if he's just being a slot wide receiver for the Commanders, then he's not going to be great for fantasy. You look at how the team lines up, and I would imagine, you've got Luke McCaffrey kind of.
No, bro, you got former 1st-round pick Treylon Burks.
Oh, they've got Treylon Burks.
Remember that touchdown?
Oh, man.
Touchdown was sick.
Yeah, I agree with you, Andy. They don't have a lot of weapons, but Jayden Daniels is a weapon in his own right that can make up for a lot of that. I mean,
You could ignore all of the weapons and just say, look, anybody with the rushing floor of Jayden Daniels' ilk, I mean, this is going to be a guaranteed fantasy producing season.
It's funny because, you try to hope that he can comp to Lamar and develop into, that level of a player. If he does, and you go, okay, well, who do they have? They've got Zay Flowers and an old Mark Andrews and, some rookies coming in, and you don't really worry about it there. So I think it comes down to, is Jayden going to be great Last year, he went into the season in the 3rd round. People were assuming, okay, this is that next superstar. Now he's a 6th-round pick. He's dropped a lot. Some of that, I'm sure, is the weapon. Some of that is probably the durability. The fact that we saw him get injured as an undersized mobile quarterback last year. But I'm fine taking a shot on a guy with the total potential to go out there and rush for, 800 yards. He was basically on pace to break all scrambling records.
Yeah, he was not doing anything different running-wise last year in the games he was active. He just got hurt. And
through the air
the price
was not as good.
Well,
yeah,
remember,
yes, you can explain it away with all the personnel, but statistically, completion percentage dropped 8%. Yards per attempt went down by 0.7. Touchdown percent was down almost a full point.
We've seen this a couple times in a row where, I've talked about it a little bit with the Patriots last year and their schedule. The schedule for rookie Jayden Daniels and the Commanders was a cakewalk schedule. And so last year it got harder. They only won 5 games with the injuries. I think their defense is not very good, which is good for fantasy, but I don't expect them to win a ton of games this year.
At the running back position.
Yeah, who are you taking a shot on?
So, first you got to.
I didn't think we'd be doing this whole dance again this year, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I thought they would do more than add Rashad White.
We thought Jeremiah Love might be going there.
So, Bill, Ja'Cory Krosky Merritt, it does start with him. They're very close in ADP. I think they're very close in terms of who I would prefer to have on my team. This is very much a training camp. We need more news on how they're handling things. Like Rashad White can come in and he can already do everything. He does everything great, but he does everything perfectly acceptable for an NFL team where Bill is the one who has the juice, and everything they've kind of said about him in this offseason so far is when he doesn't have the ball, he has to be better. Like in pass protection, in the actual receiving game. If it sounds like the coaching staff is going to become more confident in him in those things, I think there's a chance that Bill becomes just a true, he's on the field all the time. But this is, like I said, you need the news because it could be a nothing burger and it ends up completely being Rashad White.
There are Chigakonkwo believers out there. I've been one before. 3 years, $17 million deal. Arrives to be the tight end 1. I'm sorry, Mike, but the tight end 1 on an offense that,
financially,
Zach Ertz was a big part, way too big a part for you to handle of the Washington offense when he was catching passes here. We just talked about the absence of pass catchers in the wide receiver room. There's room. Let me just put it that way. There is room for Chigakonkwo to make his mark in this offense.
I am.
Oh
Senate.
gosh. You can acknowledge everything I said and still like Ben Sinnott, just so you know.
Yes, look, Ben Sinnott, year 1, 5 receptions, year 2, 11, year 3, 24. I'm just saying, at this rate, we're growing exponentially.
Hey,
pretty soon he's
Jason,
going to be
I need somebody
catching
to talk
300
about
passes.
Chigakonkwo because that might matter.
Look, Chig is a very athletic tight end that we've seen have some breakaway plays. They need him desperately. They paid him. He will have the opportunities. They pass the ball.
I thought you were going to say they paid him desperately as well, which maybe is the case. But
they pass the ball a lot to Zach Ertz. I think that the opportunity will be there for him. Absolutely a sleeper. He's basically an undrafted tight end that is, it's like if you told me that one of him or Goddard was going to have a breakout, it's more likely that Chig breaks out.
Really?
Because he could be a high volume passing attack number 2 target in the offense. There's really very little competition for that second target. And so, I would say Chig has the opportunity to break out. I'm not betting on it like the Biggest Loser is. That's his guy. But yeah, to me, I feel like the piece of this offense I want is Jayden Daniels, and I'm not very excited about most all the other pass catchers. We haven't even mentioned Terry McLaurin, but he's older. He was thriving on touchdowns a couple years
wide
ago.
Receiver what?
Ceiling?
The ceiling's still solid.
Wide receiver
like 7?
I don't think that high.
I do. Yeah, I think the ceiling is easily a top 10 player.
I'm realizing as we're doing all these teams from this entire division that all their tight ends might be the same player from a fantasy perspective. Like, I can make an argument that Ferguson did it for a bunch of games. Goddard did it for a bunch of games. Chig has had big games. In fact, the last 2 years, he's ended with like top 6 performances like multiple times in the last handful of weeks. He loves the end of the season. And then now we're going to talk about Isaiah Likely. So we're just in the same boat of there's a lot of these guys. They're starters.
Yeah, the difference between like tight end 4 and tight end 24 is not that much.
Not enough for you. All right, we'll take a break. We got one more team. You guys got the inside scoop this weekend. Well, the Giants went 4-13 last year. That was under the 5.5 win total projected for them. They were 1-7 in one score games.
Hit
their projections?
They all hit
go over.
Yeah, they all hit their under.
Yeah, that's kind of how it felt. There was a little bit of like all the teams had the air let out of them.
Yeah.
But 1-7 in one score games cost Brian Dable his job. There were games. Honestly, it was like, could you figure out how to lose this game? And if you gave me that opportunity to try, I would have still won. But he lost those games. There were some crazy games last year.
Yeah, I forgot about all those.
He lost 9 straight games after week 6. And in week 6, they had beaten Philly on Thursday night.
Oh, that was the game, right?
Yeah.
That was the Dart scat game.
Yeah.
Am I remembering that right?
It was
where they took over the TV at the end, and it was like you came into work on Friday like, holy crap, guys. It's
and we didn't get a long enough run.
No.
Neighbors, we didn't get to see him. He ran 11 routes with Jaxson Dart before he suffered a season-ending ACL that has turned into a difficult recovery. The recovery of Cam Skattebo seems to have gone well.
Yeah, he's doing flips.
Because when he went down, that was a tough one to see, a tough one to watch.
It's one of those visually you know immediately what has happened to that player, and it's disturbing, and it was such a emotional gut punch for the fantasy football world.
John Harbaugh takes over, replaces Brian Dable.
The New York Giants.
Then Mike Kafka is gone, replaced by Matt Nagy. So after you watch,
oh boy,
do you think Matt Nagy might have sucked the energy out of that room? Is that what happened? The budget magician had already performed, and there was just not enough energy left in that press conference or that team meeting?
It's very possible. I don't understand how these coaches keep getting jobs. Like, you want him to be an assistant or something? I still wouldn't, but at least okay. Like, you really look at his body of work and you're like, yeah, that's our OC.
It's funny because in the offseason, Cliff Kingsbury was the Giants' OC for about a minute. It was like, oh, it seemed like that was a done deal.
Yeah.
Mike, you were so excited about it because you were a big believer in Jaxson
That's
Dart.
fantasy points right there.
Absolutely. And then it went from Cliff Kingsbury's high-speed offense, high passing volume offense to Matt Nagy.
I mean, this is a weird situation because they're projected to win 7.5, which puts, I mean, that would put Harbaugh in the, if he beats that by a game or two, that's like Coach of the Year candidate for a team that's in a tough division. But they lose their target leader. Wan'Dale Robinson's gone. They won't have a healthy Malik Neighbors at full force for a while. Their wide receiver room is a comedic.
I tell you, Darius Slayton gets no respect.
Well, sorry, Jason. I was speaking about Darnell Mooney, Juju Smith-Schuster, Odell Beckham Jr., Calvin Austin, and Braxton Berrios. We've been on a bunch of teams. We've been there, done that. We hope. I mean, are they hoping they combine to catch 22 passes?
Yeah, that's embarrassing. I'm hoping that it is more Darius Slayton and Malachi Fields, kind of out with the old and in with the new.
Isaiah Likely.
And then quickly, hopefully, Malik Neighbors. The weapons will be there eventually, but it is tough sledding. Without Neighbors, it really seems like they don't have the passing weapons to make it easy on themselves. Now, they can rely on Cam Skattebo. They've got a really good backfield, having Tyrone Tracy as a backup behind Cam Skattebo is
Singletary back behind them.
Yeah, exactly. It's a deep core. This team has a great defense. Their defense, I think, can really surprise. You bring in a coach like Harbaugh, and I think you're going to have a team that starts the season winning ball games by running with Jaxson Dart, running with Cam Skattebo, and figuring that out offensively enough while they stay, close in games. For fantasy, I don't think we're going to love this offense until Neighbors shows up.
I just think there's a lot of risk. Like, I know you guys are big Jaxson Dart fans, and I know the numbers of the running totals in his limited starts are very, very good.
I'm more concerned.
But I'm concerned that we can't have two things here. I'm concerned you can't have the reckless abandon that leads to fantasy points combined with durability that leads to being on the field.
Yeah,
for both guys, in a way, for him and Scat.
For Dart, some of his numbers, especially if you're talking his success as a no huddle quarterback, he's a top 5, like putting up top 5 numbers in those. Plays out of a huddle, very, very bad. And Dart was afforded a lot of no huddle last year. And you bring in Matt Nagy does not do no huddle. So it's like, will they allow him to use that superpower? And it's like, well, why does that work? Because Dart he's an athletic playmaker. He can get better. He was a first-round quarterback. He can improve, but it's like his superpower last year was the play is broken down.
It's not just sitting in the pocket and picking people apart.
We're going to go street ball on people, and it was working. I mean, aside from the injuries and I do want to mention about Isaiah Likely. Jason and I, boots on the ground. There was an interview with Jaxson Dart recently at the Fanatics Fest, brought to you by the Fantasy Footballers. And
I thought Schefter did that.
So did he. And we asked Dart, we're fishing for the information. You're trying to get him to start naming some players with intentionally not listing any players' names. Like, who's first? The first and only player listed was Isaiah Likely. However, the way it was said was, we got Isaiah Likely. It was like there was a big pause in between the two names, like he didn't fully know his name yet. So I don't know.
I think he was just trying to be clear. I saw that clip.
Oh, you felt like it was
I thought he was just trying to. He realized he needed to
know who Isaiah.
He realized he needed to be clear for the audience.
Perhaps that is what happened.
I think he had Isaiah in mind right away, but it's still, there's still question marks. Jaxson Dart was the 32nd ranked quarterback when under pressure in completion percentage. That's something that they're going to need to do better. Their middle of the pack offensive line needs to protect him. We know we're going to see a lot of 2 tight end sets. Bellinger and Likely probably on the field together. He did have a great rapport with Bellinger. I think
Theo?
Oh, Theo. I'm so sorry. Yes, Theo Johnson. I think Bellinger's still on the team too. But yes, Theo last year, I liked that connection between them.
Yeah, I did too.
I think Likely is the more explosive, fun player and will probably produce more fantasy points. But both are weapons for Dart. Like, if you want to make the case that he's got enough to start the year before Neighbors, to me it's Likely and Theo complementing those guys and them being smart enough to have both those. 2 tight end sets when Malik is hurt makes all the more sense than anything else. Run the ball with Cam and see if you can survive with that defense. But I'm just not sure what the ride's going to be like with Jaxson Dart, and I feel bad because I feel like he's the fun, exciting, sexy player to like, and I just have doubts.
100% is. He was, if purely fantasy speaking, he was awesome. Like, once he took over as the starter, if you were like, I'm going to ride this out. Whenever he plays, I'll play him. He really had like the dud in week 16.
He had a game where he scored exactly
Minnesota.
0.
Minnesota will get you.
And he played 100% of snaps.
But 20 points, 25, 22, 26, 27, 28, 20, like those aren't just good weeks. That's my quarterback was better than yours. So he's extremely exciting. The ADP I think makes total sense. What I'm seeing right now for redraft quarterback 9, because he is a player. He could, to me, like Jaxson Dart, if Malik gets back sooner than we're expecting, Dart can finish as a top 5 quarterback for fantasy football. He has all of this
he's
stuff.
got Beckham and he's got Juju and I'm just kidding.
He has, but he like him, the player. He has the stuff that we need for fantasy football. If we can get him some weapons, then things will go well.
It's going to be
but
tough.
I hate Matt Nagy.
An interesting start, I should say. Dallas in week 1, but at home. Then the Rams in Los Angeles in week 2.
Okay.
So that is.
But then,
if I'm Malik, I might sit that one out. But then Tennessee, Arizona, Washington, New Orleans. So let me ask you this real quick, Jason, because I've seen it asked, like the mock draft, all this stuff. How do you approach Malik Neighbors today? That's the last question I'm going to ask on the Giants. But how do you're going? Let's say you're drafting in 2 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
12 team.
How are you going to approach him?
Yeah, I am approaching Malik Neighbors with 2 truths. One is that I think he starts the year on the pup, and so I won't have him for the first 4 or maybe even 5 weeks of the season. I also think that he's going to be a star fantasy option at the end of this year. If he gets to, 85, 90% of what he is capable of doing. You saw Wan'Dale Robinson at 185 pounds get just murdered by Jaxson Dart because he kept throwing 14 targets, 13. It was like that was the guy that he was throwing to, and it was really good. I think that was 140 targets to Wan'Dale Robinson. When Dart has Neighbors on that field, he's going to give him every opportunity to succeed. I think he'll be a monster at the end of the year.
Do you think fantasy playoffs Malik Neighbors will
yes.
talk about him?
I think fantasy playoffs Neighbors should be.
So what round are we talking?
Is that a 5th round pick? Is that a 4th round pick?
In the 4th round is when I have started really looking at him. When he's there in the 4th round,
I think that's when the entire league is going to start getting a little sweaty.
Yeah, and then
what about no IR spot? At
that point, that's with no IR spot. At that point, I'm looking at my team and saying, okay, can I survive basically not having a wide receiver here? Do I have, if I feel like I've got a real stud running back, a hero running back approach, and I started with 2 other good wide receivers, I feel like I could take that shot at Neighbors in the 4th.
Well, I think we need to pick this division, and I've got my names written down. It's not an easy one. What do you guys think?
Writing it down.
You want me to read mine?
I've got mine.
I've got my first and last, but I don't. Man, the other 2.
I'm going to do something that I'm taking.
We're probably the same.
It's Dallas.
Dallas is winning.
And then I'm going Philly.
Yep.
And then I'm going the Giants.
Oh, okay.
And then I'm going Washington.
I went Washington, New York, but I got Dallas winning.
I've got Philly, Dallas, New York, and then the Commanders.
Okay. Well, that'll do it for today's episode. Saturday show. Don't forget, 3 times a week right now. About to be 5 a week in August. Episodes coming at you. The NFC West on Saturday. Mock draft show on Tuesday. Unsolved Mysteries episode next Thursday. Couple quick headlines for you. Few tickets left. BallersLive.com for the Megala show in Phoenix if you want to check that out. And the draft kit at UltimateDraftKit.com.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.